Hello, another Thursday live. Like I said, I'm trying to do these once a week at around lunchtime on a Thursday. My screen is really blurry. I don't know what's happened to the camera on my phone, but I'm just gonna go with it. So apologies if I'm a little out of focus. Today we're gonna be talking about what you can do when you haven't got any previous examples of like client work in your portfolio, but you want to start working with brands. I feel like that's one thing that tends to really hold people back, is this belief that you can't go and find clients, or you can't be clients won't be interested in you if you haven't already shot with brands or with other clients like them or something like that. It's a big mindset shift or mindset block that happens with a lot of people, and I experienced this myself, and it's definitely something that you can work on, and I'm going to hopefully today help you to see that you don't need to be held back by the fact that you haven't already worked with a brand, and that you will, once you've got that first brand collaboration, feel a million times better. So this is how you can kind of go about getting that first one. So if you have any questions as I am chatting away, please feel free to leave them in the comment section or in the question section of the live, and I will answer them when I'm done going through all of the content. So the first thing that you can do is to make up your own shoots with products, and including products in your shoots of the brands that you would really love to shoot for. This is something that I did a lot when I was first starting out, so about 4 or 5 years ago. I would identify a brand that I really wanted to work for one day, and I would make a point of every time I shot including 1 or 2, maybe sometimes 3 or 4 products by that brand in my imagery. So I would make a point of actually going into the shop near my house and picking up like a small affordable item from their most recent collection. One of the brands I have in mind is Jules, and I used to go and buy things like scarves, bobble hats, anything that was small and affordable that wasn't going to break the bank, but that I could use as a prop in my shoot, which meant I could then tag the brand and send the images to the brand after I'd done the shoot and show them what I could do with their product. It was kind of a little way of saying, hi, I really love your product, I really love your brand, I want to work with you one day. Here are some examples of things I've done, photos I've done, including your product, that you can see. And that was a really good way for me to kind of build up a bit of a know-how or a bit of a repertoire of work that I could send to brands, and also get me on the radar of some brands. I still do this today. So about 2 weeks ago, I did a shoot with an amazing influencer local to the area, and we used a ton of different products from different brands, and some of them were sent to us by brands, but others we were just using because it was stuff that we already had, and I have made a point of sending those images to the brands that we had never spoken to and saying, here are the images I've shot recently using your product. Some of the product was current collection, so it is relevant to them. If it's past collection stuff, still show the brand. Don't just think that because it's not the current collection that they're selling right now, they won't be interested in seeing it. They absolutely will want to still see what you can do with their previous products. They might not repost it because it won't be as relevant to the stuff that they're doing at the moment, but they'll still be interested in seeing it. So absolutely, that is one way that you can start to get that conversation going with brands, even if you've never shot with a client or a brand before. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions about using product and sending product to brands, let me know. Sending images to brands, I meant. The second point I put on my piece of paper is to literally just shoot a lot, and that is like, I feel like I need to say it, but it sounds so obvious, but it is really important. You do still need to shoot a lot, despite the fact that you haven't shot for brands. I want you to be going out at least once a week and doing some kind of editorial, some kind of test shoot, collaborating with people. You need to look busy. You need to be perceived to be someone who is out working. No one knows that you're not necessarily being paid for everything. It doesn't matter. As long as it looks like you are shooting and you are able to create content and get the word out there of what you're doing and collaborate with more and more people who can then spread the word about what you're doing, that is what matters. So even if you've never shot with a brand before, make a point, if you're serious about this, about shooting as much as you can to get your name out there. The third point I've made is to pitch yourself for collaborations. Now, there's a big divide amongst the creative photography community and the creative community at wide, not just in photography, as to, should you or shouldn't you work for free? What's the border? What's the middle ground of this? And it's completely personal. It's up to you to decide what you're comfortable with. But one of the ways that I have always found, and that I've found with most people I've spoken to, that they have got traction and then been able to start getting hired by clients, is by working in collaboration with other people. That might mean collaborating with makeup artists and hairstylists and coming up with ideas for your own shoots and then putting them on social media or sending them to magazines. But that is what gets you noticed. Equally, you can also collaborate with brands. There is no reason that you can't when you're just getting started. If you've never ever worked with a brand before, your first ever brand shoot might have to be a collaboration with someone. I did. That is completely normal. It's very, very normal for photographers to, when they are very first starting out. I'm not saying this is going to be something you have to do forever or even that long, but just to get that traction going, getting a couple of collaborative shoots going where you say you worked with the brand, you shot the imagery for the brand, and then they were able to use the images on their end, and you can then say, I worked with this brand. That absolutely will help elevate your work going forward and be able to mean that you can add that brand name to your client list. It doesn't matter that it was an exchange of product, or maybe they gave you product or did the shoot for free. It doesn't matter that happened. What matters is that you did something for someone else that is work, that is actual physical work that you did for them. So you can therefore add that client name to your client list. And it goes without saying that the moment you have a name next to your name, it does elevate your whole business. So doing collaborations, I think, is probably undervalued quite a lot. I think it's quite useful. I wouldn't say do it for the long term, do it for a little bit to get started and then move on and trying to get paid shoots or even just small fees to compensate for your time. The fourth thing I have on my list is to reach out to PR agents. So you don't actually have to necessarily always go to the in-house team at a brand to try and get collaborations going. You can reach out to PR agents, and this is what most of us do, is to, when you're just getting started and you're building your portfolio, you've got a couple of test shoots you've done with your own wardrobe, and you've used your model's wardrobe, and you've used your friend's wardrobe, and you have evidence of the fact that you can take good images. You can then start approaching PR agencies and saying, hi, would you lend me some product to use in a shoot I'm doing this Friday or this Saturday? PR agents, especially the smaller agencies, I wouldn't say go to the very top PR agencies in the city you're in or the area you're in. Try with some of the smaller ones and see if they have any clients of theirs who are really looking to grow their social media, have a little bit of extra content they can share, those sorts of things, and then they will send you product that you can use for the shoot, which you then send back. I'm thinking more like editorial here, not so much this is like a campaign. It's more of you're doing an editorial project. Maybe you're going to get sent a couple of different brand products and you can use those. That is a fantastic way for a brand to be able to see what you can do with their product once again. The whole thing I'm trying to get out here is you want to be able to show brands what you can do with their product to make them able to sell their product more. That is everything that we're doing here all the time. Fashion photography is about selling products to the consumer, and the way that brands do that is by having product in photo and in video. So if you can think of ways to help brands sell their products, they're going to love you. What do you mean PR agency? Good question. So a PR agency is a public relations agency. Public relations is anything to do with trying to spread the word in the media about a product. So when you buy a magazine and you see the shopping pages in magazines, the big collages where they have all the different dresses that are on sale right now that are in season, or here are the latest pics of what's on trend in the next couple of months. Those will generally have been PR agents sending the magazine examples of what the clients that they represent have in season at the moment, and that they ask the magazine if they want to feature them. PR agents also hold on to samples of jewelry, of dresses, of all kinds of products, and if you're into like shooting interiors, they also tend to hold things like candles and lamps and blankets and all the things, anything product. PR agents will tend to send it out to stylists or photographers to use in their photo shoots, and then in exchange the brand can use the images on social media with a tag, of course, or they go in magazines. This is also how magazines, when they're commissioning their own photo shoots, get the product. So they will go to a PR agent and say, we're doing a shoot on spring summer 21. I'm thinking way ahead of time here, but they're doing a shoot on, let's say we're doing a photo shoot based on the trends of autumn winter 20. What brands do you have at the moment? What clothes do you have at the moment that we can borrow? The PR agent will send the clothes to the magazine or to the stylist who's doing the shoot with the magazine, and then they use them. That's what I do when I do a shoot. A stylist will come to a shoot that I'm organising with loads of samples that they have borrowed from PR agencies. Sometimes the PR agents are in-house, which means that a brand will have their own PR agent who literally works full-time for the brand, doing nothing but PR to try and promote the brand within the media. Or there will be agencies who look after multiple different brands, and they work on, a couple, like maybe 10 brands, I'm just putting it out there. And their job is to help those 10 brands get as much media attention and as much press as possible about their product and their brand. So if you've not already tried reaching out to PR agents to borrow things, to kind of get your name out there, that's something you could absolutely start doing. The next thing is to collaborate with influencers. So I mentioned earlier that 2 weeks ago I did a shoot with an influencer called Lindsay. The images we did were great and we had a great time, and the whole point of doing that collaboration is that we both have similar destinations of where we want our careers to go. Lindsay really wants to work with similar brands to me, so it made complete sense for us to do a collaboration where I did photos of her, she modeled for me, we worked together and contacted brands that both of us really love and want to work with one day, and they sent us samples to use in our photo shoot. In exchange for sending us the samples, the brand gets promotion on Lindsay's channel, as channels of social media. They get promotion on my channel, and they can also use the images on their channels if they so wish to. Collaborating with influencers is really good because influencers are like another way of getting your name in front of other brands. I do recommend being quite specific about who you work with. You want to be sure that the influencer that you're collaborating with is in line with where you want to go. So let's say if you want to be like working with really feminine brands, you're not trying to work with like male influencers who want to shoot in the city, for example. So being quite selective. And then, it's a really great way of, again, getting your name out there, getting in front of brands, potentially collaborating with brands through an influencer. Influencers will also get brand collaboration deals that they need a photographer to do with them. So influencers often hire photographers. They'll pay them to shoot imagery of their stuff that they need shot for a brand deal. So again, influencers are a great way to start getting your foot in there, and then you can say like, oh, I shot for this brand with this influencer. That's still doing a job for that brand. It doesn't matter that it was with an influencer and not with a model, because I believe the line is very blurred now. Influencers and models can kind of blend in between each other. A really great way of sort of getting in front of brands, starting to add brand names to your portfolio and being able to say, I worked with this brand. And then lastly, this is kind of similar to the very first point, which was about buying product, using it in your shoot and then sending it to the brand. You can do the same by simply buying product in for a shoot. If you, let's say the PR agents you've emailed haven't replied, you're not getting anywhere with PR agents, and you really want to use some amazing brands in your photo shoot, I try not to do this too much, but buying and returning product is pretty common, like everyone does it. Again, I don't recommend doing it very often. It's not very nice to the brands. I try not to do it if I can avoid it, because it's obviously like a sale and then taking back a sale. It's not very fair, I feel. But if you're at a complete loss, you need product, you need to elevate your portfolio by having better brands, by having more on-trend work clothing in your shoots, going to somewhere like ASOS and buying a bunch of stuff that is relevant to your photo shoot, that is going to elevate your portfolio, and then sending it back is completely normal. So that is one, and then you can obviously tag those brands and say like, okay, here's some imagery I shot with a recent collection. I'd love to share it with you. Let me know if I can help you with other things in future, etc., etc. Okay, so that is, in a nutshell, what you can do if you have no examples of previous clients in your portfolio yet. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to type them away. I will let you do that while I sit here and chat for a minute, because sometimes it takes a little while for the questions to come through. I really hope this was helpful. I've got a very exciting little series starting up next week with other photographers. So I'm going to be doing joint lives with some really, really cool photographers coming up, similar to the podcast, but we're going to be chatting about just one specific topic for a short amount of time on Instagram. Next week's guest is going to be Kaylee June, who is a friend of mine who lives in Australia. She is an amazing photographer, so I will be sharing all the details about when and where and exactly what's going to be happening with that in the next couple of days. Katrina, yes, this will be saved. It will be on my IGTV, so if you want to watch it back later, you can do so. There's no problem. It will be right there waiting for you when you want to watch it later on or tomorrow or whenever. So yeah, that's going to be really exciting. The little series I'm starting up after next week. So the lives are going to get a little bit more juicy, I think, and I've got a lot of cool guests lined up for the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a fun series. I'm taking a break from the podcast now that you know that the podcast had its last episode, a little bonus episode if you missed it yesterday, with Hippolyte, which was amazing. So instead of podcasting, we're going to be doing some little Instagram lives. Like I said, any questions, please feel free to ask them now. If you have no questions, great, that means I did a good job, and I will probably just leave you there, and I'll come back next week. As always, if you have questions afterwards, feel free to DM me and I will answer your questions in the DMs or on stories. Cool. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you next week. Bye.